ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930 present The Drive. Winner of the 2024 West Virginia Broadcasters Association Excellence in Broadcasting Award for Best Talk Show.
It is Monday, July 22nd. Your drive begins now on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. And I'm a relieved Paul Swann. USA just beat Germany in the final tune-up game before the Olympics, 92-88. As I told our producer, Ben Anderson, who said that the United States should be steamrolling everybody, the world has obviously gotten better at basketball, but Team USA gets the victory, so I'm in a good mood. I'm big time when it comes to Olympic competition. I am very jingoistic. I am Team USA all the way. It doesn't matter what we're competing in. When you tell me it's Team USA, let's go. Bring everybody on. Let's do it. So I'm excited for the Olympics. They're actually getting ready to go here in a few days. LeBron James is going to be the flag bearer. That's pretty cool. You want to get a little star power? He was actually nominated by Steph Curry, and then he got voted on by all the athletes. So LeBron James, only the first men's basketball player and third overall to hold the colors for the United States. That's a pretty big honor. So we got a lot to get into today. Obviously, basketball is going to be at the forefront of a lot of it. We've got Conference USA preseason all Sun Belt team and poll out today, so we're going to get into that. And we do that with you with our text line 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Also coming up here in the next few minutes, we're going to start with Jonny Wincott. He is the voice of Stony Brook. They are the Seawolves. And so he's going to join us, talk a little bit about the team that's coming up in about 10, 15 minutes. So we're looking forward to catching up with him and find out more about the team. The Tri-State Cold Cats are off today. They improved now to 19-22 after the weekend. Burlington, who they faced, fell to 23-18. Cold Cats are now 19-22, tied with actually Bluefield's got a game on them. They're 19-21, but the Cold Cats are within striking distance, trying to get that second and last spot. Danville is 26-15. Burlington now 23-18, as I just mentioned, and so the Cold Cats have got a shot here. Believe it or not, they might. The way they've been playing. I mean, they lost game 1 7-3 yesterday, and they won the second one. It was a doubleheader 7-3. So they are making a push, and that's all we can ask for out of this team. And again, this is college wooden bat league. We see these guys for a couple of months and they're gone, but in that couple of months there are teams. So I think they've got a shot here. I don't think they're going to get there. It's still probably too tough of a road to hoe, but we got some hope. We actually have some hope. So they got a 4-game set coming up this week. It's the final home game set as well. Wednesday through Saturday, 4-game home series against the Danville Otterbots. And you know what that means? They have a shot of maybe making up some ground. Now, they're going to have to concern themselves trying to catch Burlington, even though they're playing Danville. Even if they won the series, that's 3 games. If they swept them, that would be 4 games. That would still put them behind Danville. Burlington's going to have to lose out or lose the majority of the games, and then Pulaski and Bluefield are going to have to give them a little help. So that's what it looks like as far as the Cold Cats are concerned. And again, don't forget, we got the series coming up. All the home games right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. The other game we're going to get into, and I want to spend more time with it, so I don't want to just talk about it briefly here at the top because we got a lot to get into. We've got, of course, media days coming up for the Sun Belt. That's going to be tomorrow and Wednesday, and today the preseason All Sun Belt Conference teams came out, and Logan Osborne selected as a second-team recipient. Last year, he was a first-teamer preseason. So he's second-team now preseason. That's it. He's the only Marshall representative on that list. So we'll talk about that. What does that mean for the Thundering Herd? I'll give you a hint. Absolutely nothing. It's preseason. It means nothing. It's just a snapshot of what the coaches think. You know what the coaches think when it comes to the East Division? Marshall's going to finish 5th. Ahead will be Georgia Southern at 4, Coastal Carolina at 3, James Madison at 2, and App State is 1. App got 12 first-place votes. James Madison got 2. Georgia Southern is fourth by a point. They received 50 total points. Marshall, 49. Old Dominion is sixth in the East with 32 points, and Georgia State is seventh with 19 points. So it's not that bad. Marshall could be a 4 or a 5, depending on who votes. Maybe if someone would have voted maybe one spot different, Marshall would be a 4. So I think Marshall's in that 4 or 5 range to begin with. App State's going to be tough this year. James Madison, we'll see. Coastal, very good. But I'm not surprised by any of this. West Division, Texas State leads the way with 92 points and 9 first-place votes. And then it drops off. Troy is second with 68 points. ULM is dead last in the West Division with 16 points. Southern Miss is sixth with 31 points. South Alabama is fifth with 54. And then Arkansas State is fourth with 65 points. And then Louisiana got 1 first-place vote, and they finished up third with 66 points. And again, this is preseason. Nothing really to be overly concerned about. The expectations are low. That means you have a lot to prove. You want to prove the expectations wrong. You have a lot to prove. It's nice to go in as the top team or the team everyone expects to win, but it might mean a little bit more if you're not the top team. Everyone thinks that you're not supposed to finish well. You're picked 5th out of 7 in the East Division. What does that mean for the upcoming season? Again, absolutely nothing. Players will see this. Players can do one of two things. They can either look at it and go, that means nothing, and go out there and prove them wrong, or they can get mad and try to go out there and prove them wrong. That's what you got. 2 reactions, a non-reaction and just prove them wrong, or a reaction of chip on their shoulder, go prove them wrong. Either way, the ultimate thing here is to prove them wrong, right? Well, we'll get into a lot of that later. Again, that's later for the show. But heard that was fun to watch yesterday. So if you didn't watch that game, it was definitely one of the better finishes I've seen in a long time. The Elam ending makes it fun, because War Ready could have just run the clock out on Heard That and it would have been over. But instead, War Ready had to score 8 points. They score 4 of the 8 to get the Elam ending score, and then Heard That just comes back and shuts them down and wins out. They outscored them in that overtime 14-4. Incredible. And War Ready only needed to hit 8 points in that overtime, or that final. Yeah, consider it's overtime, but it's not. It's really hard for someone who is so used to box scores. It's like, okay, you got the third, you get the fourth, and then they stop the fourth, and we go into another period. It's the Elam ending period. But I think once you get the hang of it, it's fun. It's better basketball. I mean, War Ready in that fourth outscored the Herd 12-2. And I thought, okay, they're done. They're just done. John Elmore in that game, he was cold for most of it and started to heat up finally. Wasn't his best performance. I thought they had a lot of good performances. DeAndre Kane was fun to watch out there. J.P. Tokoto was fun to watch out there. Ja'Cory Williams had 13 points. I don't know if you want to give him the hero tag, but Tyrus McGee, 11 points in that game. So they had a lot of performances from a lot of the Herd standouts, a lot of the associate Herd Thaters. How do you call them? I mean, this is an alumni team, but some of these guys aren't from Marshall. So I guess we've adopted them, right? That's how this works. DeAndre Kane being the exception, he left but came back, so he's in the fold now. Let's turn our attention to football. We'll get into media days, of course, and the coaches poll later with you. But when we come back from break, we're going to talk a little bit more about the upcoming season. Let's get an idea of what we can expect with Stony Brook, the voice of the Seawolves, Jonny Wincott, when we continue on this edition of The Drive, ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
Save big at Menards with the best in-stock selection of AC2 pressure-treated lumber. Our huge inventory of boards, decking, and fencing is easy to load in our drive-through lumber yard. Plus, you can get free estimates fast with our fence and deck design programs in-store or on Menards.com. Save big on all lumber at Menards, America's #1 home improvement retailer for customer satisfaction, according to J.D. Power. For J.D. Power 2024 award information, visit jdpower.com/awards.
Save big money at Menards.
Giovanni's Pizza. Fresh, hot, and tasty. Have it delivered right to your door. Giovanni's, the Italian place to be.
Let the good times roll. Downtown Huntington's premier weekly music event is back. It's Mount West Ninth Street Live, presented by New Trail, Garage Beer, Big Truck, The Beast, La Marca Prosecco, and Matua Sauvignon Blanc. This Friday, it's Xfinity High-Speed Internet Night with William Matheny and Ginger Wicks. Music starts at 7 on the Marshall OBGYN stage. The Little Caesars Kids Zone is back, and Go-Mart Happy Hour starts at 5. Enjoy food and drinks from the Marshall Hall of Fame Cafe, Sip Downtown Brasserie, and Summit Beer Station. Mark your calendar for Friday, August 2nd, when 9th Street is Dead, featuring John Ingram's Dead Center and the music of the Grateful Dead. The Thundering Herd Rally is Friday, August 16th. 9th Street Live is driven by Yes Chevy, Yes Ford, every Friday night through Labor Day. 9th Street in Huntington, between 3rd and 4th Avenues. Sponsored by Delta Hotels, Marshall OBGYN, Wendy's, Mountain Mindful, City of Huntington, Marshall University, Impact Media, Xfinity High-Speed Internet, One Way Septic and Rent-A-Can, and Kendrick Communications.
Take a look under your bed. Find stuff under there? What about jobs? No? Now try your basement. There's a pair of overalls that overall you're not so into anymore. A perfectly good laptop that hasn't sat in your lap in months. And even more stuff, but still no jobs? Well, you really have both. See, stuff is defined as household articles considered as a group. Sometimes this stuff is no longer needed. Wait, no longer needed? That can't be right. Because remember those jobs you were looking for? Those are really needed, and they're the stuff inside your stuff. Even inside that winter coat that moved with you to Phoenix. Our job is to unlock those jobs, and it starts when you donate your stuff to your local Goodwill. Here's how we do it. When you donate to Goodwill, we sell your stuff to provide job training for people right here in your community. So just by teaming up with Goodwill, you help create jobs. And isn't that worth parting with the leftover guitar from your 80s cover band? Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs. Find your nearest donation center at goodwill.org. A message from Goodwill and the Ad Council.
This is The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
Welcome back to our Monday edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. We'll get your text in just a minute, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. You think Marshall is going to be fifth best in the East Division? The coaches think so. What do you think? Let's turn our attention to Marshall's first opponent. Football season's closer than you think, and we're getting set for the upcoming season. And we want to speak now with the voice of the Seawolves, Jonny Wincott. He joins us now to tell us a little bit more about his team. We're looking forward to the Seawolves coming into Huntington. Jonny, how you been?
Good, Paul. Appreciate you having me on the program. Hopefully it could be of service here for Stony Brook. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we obviously, first-time matchup, you don't know too much about Stony Brook. There's a lot of questions out there, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions even from your end because a new coaching staff, a lot of transition. What can Marshall fans expect from a Stony Brook team this year?
You know, the funny thing, I've had the pleasure of broadcasting Stony Brook football now for about the last half decade. I've done a bevy of radio appearances like this one where, I help kind of try and preview the team. Like you're mentioning, unfortunately, this year, I'm not sure how much more I know at this point in the offseason than anyone else does. Such a big reset in the program's history. As you mentioned, the new head coach, he brings in almost an entirely new staff, a lot of roster turnover. I will say, historically, Stony Brook has been known for kind of hard-nosed defensive football, ground and pound on the offensive side. But that was under Chuck Priori for the last 20 years. Billy Kosh kind of comes in with more of an air raid type of offensive set than at least he has in previous seasons. So not only the question mark, but sort of a different style than what the Stony Brook fans have seen over the last couple of decades. So, like I mentioned, a lot of questions, some of which might be answered over the next few weeks in training camp. Maybe who's the quarterback, but most of those questions I don't think will be answered until we kick off for the regular season.
I think the good news is, at least for both programs, is Marshall is implementing an air raid offense. This team's implementing an air raid offense, so they at least should have enough material to scout each other, even if they don't have a film necessarily on how each team runs the air raid. Air raid's the same everywhere, right?
To some degree, it just means you want to have a really good passing offense. And that is not something that Stony Brook has had even when they were a more successful type of playoff team. I think for Stony Brook, the offensive success, like we mentioned, has typically been with running the football. The passing offense has to be good enough to keep the defense honest, and that has not been the case for Stony Brook over the last couple of seasons. So I think that has contributed to some of the decline of what has been Stony Brook's bread and butter, which has been the run game. So like you mentioned, to some degree, I think the air raid offense is probably similar for any team that that's trying to improve their passing offense. And I guess we'll see right off the rip which passing offense is a little bit better.
How has this program adapted to new head coach Billy Kosh? He comes in. Was this just a transition to a new coach? Was the old regime finally forced out? How did this happen, and how has this program adapted so far?
Well, when I think the last season, when you get about halfway through and the team is winless at 0-5 and things are not looking good, you've had the same coach for a long time, Chuck Fiore, who is well loved here at Stony Brook for a very long time, but 5 consecutive under 500 seasons. I think for some folks here, the writing was probably on the wall. And then when you go winless, that's a tough thing to try and sell. So I think a lot of folks just thought, the Chuck Fiore traditional way was just not the way to do it anymore. It had kind of run itself a little bit too thin. So almost immediately after the season ended in mid-December, they brought Billy Kosh in. And from everything that we've seen and we've heard, as much as Billy can do in the offseason, he said all the right things. He's done all the right things. And it seems like the players have bought into what he's trying to sell for this new Stony Brook program.
Other than maybe changing the offense and a few other things that are on the surface, what have you seen from Kosh so far? Has it been a dramatic change with the program? I know when Charles Huff came in a few years ago for Marshall, it started with changing the culture. You hear coaches talk about that, a facelift of facilities, everything you possibly can to give that outward appearance of change. What have you seen from Kosh in this program?
I think one of the more immediate things to the casual Stony Brook fan is maybe just the sense of community. Chuck Fiore had been here for such a long time and kind of an old traditional coach that maybe after a while those are not the types of things that you focus on. So Billy Kosh wanted to not only get acquainted quickly with the team, his staff, but wanted to get to know the school, the students, the faculty, the towns that surround Stony Brook. Try and make this more of a family atmosphere. I know it's popular for a lot of coaches nowadays to kind of have their own team mottos and credos and things like that. Chuck Fiore did not really have any of those types of things. As soon as Billy got here, he established as one, I think kind of subtitled Family, Grit, and Details. So again, doing all of the little things to try and get the big result when we finally do kick off. But again, a lot of new players. It's a new staff. Just a ton of question marks this year for Stony Brook after a really difficult season in their program's history.
With the transfer portal, obviously, you see that all across college football every year. The roster's drastically different, so I'm sure that wouldn't have been any different for Stony Brook maybe in a normal year. But what do you see from what you have coming back, and what do you like potential-wise from some of the players that are coming in?
In terms of coming back, at least offensively, the skill position, I guess you'd highlight, would be running backs. I'll have 4 different running backs who have all started games over the last couple of years at Stony Brook, including their featured tailback, Roland Dempster. He missed the entire 2022 season, kind of banged up last year as well. I think at points maybe they might have sort of kept him on the bench once the team was really deep into the season, and why risk injury for a team that wasn't really going to make the playoffs. Jaden Cook, Johnny Martin, Shakai Carson, a couple guys who had transferred in last year, all running backs with a lot of experience. One of the bigger question marks is always the quarterback position. Haven't really found that starter each of the last 2 years. They've had 4 or 5 different quarterbacks. Tyler Knopp comes in from Georgetown. Not a ton of starting experience, but that still makes him one of the more experienced guys in Stony Brook's quarterback room. I imagine he'll probably compete with Casey Case, who made 9 starts last year. He transferred in from Buffalo. Was a little underwhelming, I would say, to most Stony Brook folks. Then you got a couple of freshmen and a redshirt senior in that quarterback room as well. They'll bring back a couple of captains, a defensive lineman in Taylor Balesta, an offensive lineman in Nico Papik. But again, just a lot of question marks, even with the transfers and a lot of the freshmen that Billy Kosh has targeted to try and highlight some of those high school level guys.
Jonny Wincott is with us. He's the voice of the Seawolves. Marshall and Stony Brook for the first time will meet later this year, opening up the homestand for the Thundering Herd. What does Stony Brook, or what's the expectation not only for the season but to come into Huntington? Obviously, when you play up, you hope to have a good performance. We've seen shockers before. Any team can get beat on a given Saturday. All those cliches, you know the drill. But what's the expectation for the season, and specifically coming in against Marshall? I mean, it's an exciting matchup because it's a new matchup. We've never faced off before, so there's got to be a buzz there for that, I'm sure.
Absolutely. And I would say starting for the season, and that's kind of the golden question this year around campus is after you go winless, you have a first-year head coach, what exactly is the bar? If you win 2 games, it is a 2-win improvement from last year, but does that mean, the team was good? Were they competitive? So heading into that first game, as low as this might sound for the bar, Stony Brook's got to be there the entire way. This has to be a game into the fourth quarter. When they went 0-10 last year, there were just too many games where by halftime, maybe you're shutting the TV off or you don't want to watch the rest of that game because Stony Brook didn't put up a good enough performance in the first 30 minutes for you to have their attention for the second 30. So playing competitive football for the entire 4 quarters, and again, while that sounds like kind of a first couple steps for a season, that is important for Stony Brook because they need to prove that even if they went 0-10 last year, that they got to be a competitive team this year.
My guest is Jonny Wincott. He is the voice of the Seawolves. Seawolves coming into Huntington this year. Marshall opening up the season with the Seawolves. All right, give me the history of the Seawolves. It's one of the more unique mascot names I've heard in a long time. What exactly is the Seawolf, and how did that come to be?
You really put me on the spot. I know a Seawolf. It is not a real animal. They stress that at Stony Brook.
Fair.
I'm honestly not sure on the exact history. I believe it's a combination of 2 different creatures, something to do with supposed to pay homage to something with the local respect. I know it's not a very good answer, but Google may do it better than I would.
It's better than what I have because I don't have anything on that. It's an interesting name. I've never heard of a Seawolf before, and so it's a unique mascot. I'm sure the kids love the mascot, right?
Oh, of course. And, big red representation. That's a big thing for Stony Brook. They'll probably do some red outs and try and, have the Seawolf out there. It is a good mascot, but for what it's worth as a broadcaster, I feel like they play a lot of different Seahawk teams, so that you have a lot of, Seawolf, Seahawk matchups that give us a little bit of confusion. Put our jobs to the test, if you will.
Yes, exactly. Jonny Wincott's with us, voice of the Seawolves. So what can we expect as far as fan base is concerned? Good traveling fan base, love their football. Will we see a lot of red in Huntington coming up here in the next few weeks?
I would certainly hope so. And I think that was part of the reason why one of the first things that Billy Koch sort of attacked as one of his major facets was getting the community involved. It's great to have the players' families and maybe some, you have the students and some alums and some locals there, but he needs a bit more than that, I think. I think when he stresses family, it's not just, the Stony Brook football family, but it's the surrounding areas to try and get them involved as well. So I think over the last couple of years, when they've shown that they're not really a playoff team, they've probably had less fans making trips that have now gotten longer with some shifting in the CAA. I'd like to think week 1, new coach, he's going to have his guys there. So any red you see, that'll probably be for Stony Brook. Can't guarantee how many hundreds or thousands you'll see there, but they're loud enough that you guys hear them.
We'll definitely hope that we get a lot of fans to come in. For you personally, have you been through Huntington? This your first opportunity to call a game at Marshall or be at Marshall, or have you been here before and we just missed you?
I have never been to Marshall. I've done some minor league baseball stuff in different spots in West Virginia, but I've never had the pleasure of being at Marshall. By the way, I do have a little bit more clarification on the Seawolf.
Okay.
It's based on a mythical creature called the Seawolf or the Gonacodit. Now, where that comes into play on the North Shore of Suffolk County, you got me.
I like Seawolf better. They went with the better name. I'll give them that. They went with the better name, obviously. Seawolf sounds a little bit more intimidating.
It will never be as intimidating as the Thundering Herd, but we'll see.
Jonny Wincott's with us. So you've called Appalachian League baseball, other leagues when you've called some baseball?
Yeah, I've bounced around. I was in the New York 10 League when that existed with Batavia, as well as in the Atlantic League and the Independent League with Staten Island for a season, as well as with the Binghamton now Rumble Ponies of the New York Met system. When you have so many bus rides in so many different minor league cities, they all kind of blend together. But I definitely know that I've been in West Virginia on more than one occasion to do baseball games.
Okay, you probably have seen either the team in Morgantown, definitely, or maybe even made your way down to Charleston for what is now the Dirty Birds. Before that,
the Dirty Birds.
Yeah.
Yes. Charleston Dirty Birds.
Yeah, so
and I know there was the Power, but then there's always a lot of team changing and affiliation changing, and things are kind of ever shifting in the minor league landscape.
We actually have Princeton's team now in Huntington. It's the Tri-State Coal Cats now. So we finally have a team back in Huntington, minor league, since we actually have a baseball park finally for the first time ever in city limits.
The Dirty Birds and Coldcats. You have the avian duel.
I like it. Jonny Wincott is with us, voice of the Seawolves. You probably have heard him maybe if you've been streaming games. You've called things on Flow Sports and ESPN Plus, SNY. I don't know if you've called any hockey, and maybe I've missed it. I know you do lacrosse as well, and that sounds like it's a difficult sport to call.
Yeah, lacrosse is an interesting one. It almost, to me, it kind of lends itself most towards hockey. Just like hockey through the air, I guess, is the easiest way to put it. But I'd never been a big lacrosse guy, even though I did grow up on Long Island, which is a lot of people consider, a hotbed for lacrosse. But going to Syracuse and then working at Stony Brook, two programs that lean heavy on their lacrosse teams, it's become a nice little sport to broadcast, I will say.
I bet it's huge. At least where you're at, it's huge.
Oh, absolutely. The Stony Brook women's lacrosse team is a top 10 team almost every year. Go to the NCAA tournament. The men's team, one of the better teams in their conference as well. But yeah, lacrosse just in the area itself, high school going into college, around this area, and probably around that DMV area, I would say are the two, big hotbeds for the college team.
My guest is Jonny Wincott. He's the voice of the Seawolves. We've got the Seawolves coming in to start the season with the Thundering Herd. Jonny, it's been fun catching up with you. Thanks for giving us a little bit more insight. This is going to be probably one of the more interesting games on the schedule just because there are so many unknowns, both with Marshall and for Stony Brook. But you know what happens game one. You never know. So this could be an upset. Who knows? It's game one. They're always unpredictable.
I will say if there's any player to watch out for as the opponent, I'd lean on Anthony Johnson, who was an all-conference freshman All-American last year as a wide receiver, came over from James Madison. So in a season where there were not a lot of bright spots, he probably shined the brightest. So no matter who was throwing the ball, it was kind of like if he's in the area, I could throw it near him, and his hands that were magnets somehow would make most of the catches.
Well, we're looking forward to this game, and we're looking forward to seeing you in Huntington, and we hope it's a safe trip for you here in a few weeks, and look forward to catching up with you when you get here.
Paul, appreciate you having me on the broadcast, and good luck this season. Not too much luck week one, but good luck the rest of the way.
Understand. Same here. Jonny, thanks for doing it.
You got it. No problem.
That is Jonny Wincott. Week one, it'll be the Thundering Herd and the Stony Brook Seawolves. We'll get our attention on basketball and, of course, how the Thundering Herd looks according to the coaches in football. We'll do that when we continue on this edition of The Drive, ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
The Marshall Hall of Fame Cafe heard what you're craving and is here to satisfy your appetite for value. Introducing the All Mine for $10.99 menu for a limited time only at the Marshall Hall of Fame Cafe. Enjoy bottomless Fiesta Bravo chips and salsa, your choice of a chicken sandwich, or a Hall of Fame cheeseburger, fries, and a drink for only $10.99.
All that for $10.99?
No, all mine for $10.99. No rules, any day, anytime. All mine for only $10.99 from the Marshall Hall of Fame Cafe on the corner of Fun and 3rd Avenue in downtown Huntington.
Did you know September 11th is a National Day of Service? We invite you to be kind with Volunteer West Virginia because every mountaineer has the power to make a difference. Join in our statewide Day of Service, whether it's lending a hand or spreading kindness. In West Virginia, every mountaineer is a volunteer. Visit volunteer.wv.gov to find a volunteer opportunity near you. Brought to you by Volunteer West Virginia, the West Virginia Broadcasters Association, and this station.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ziprecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to this exclusive web address, ziprecruiter.com/free. That's ziprecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Okay, forest animals, today is a new day. Kids are coming to the forest, and it's up to us to make their visit a good one. Sparrow.
Yes?
Have you practiced the most popular bird songs for the year?
Of
course.
Catchy. I like it. Okay, River.
Dude.
How's the temperature?
It's a refreshing 52 degrees, man. Perfect for a little riverside shoeless relaxation.
Ah, good. Owl, you here? Of course. Who's asking? I am. Look, you know the drill. Sleep during the day, scare the kids at night. Perfect. I love my job. Oak Tree?
What's up?
Still in the same place I left you last year. That's what I like. Consistency.
Well, it's not like I'm going anywhere for the next couple hundred years.
I know. I love it. Turtle.
He's not here yet, man.
He's late every morning. You'd think he would have learned by now to leave the night before our meetings. Okay. Squirrel. Has anybody seen Mr. Squirrel?
The forest has been preparing just for you. Visit a forest near you today. To learn more about cool things to do in the forest, visit discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
You're listening to The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Winner of the 2024 West Virginia Broadcasters Association Excellence in Broadcasting Award for Best Talk Show.
Welcome back to the Monday edition, The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. Our text line this hour is 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. That's the number to be a part of today's show. Got a couple of questions coming in. We're going to try to knock those out first. This one's an interesting one. I want to know as well. Question is, Paul, do you know how the quarterfinal locations and the TBT are decided? I wonder if that has something to do if we get back into ranking, because at this point, could the higher ranked team get the nod? It doesn't really say on the TBT website, for one. If you look at where the quarterfinals are, it's TBD versus TBD. And then the semis and the final are going to be on Philadelphia. So those are where those are at right now. The round of 16 is obviously going to be at the host sites. So Butler, Cincinnati, Houston, Lexington, Louisville, Pitt, Dayton, and Wichita. That's interesting to me. I would think that they maybe would have that a little clear on their website as far as the schedule is concerned. So we'll definitely look for that, because we don't know which region it's going to be in. Maybe Lexington. If that wins the Lexington region and they're the higher rated team, does that mean they would get a opportunity to host over the Louisville region? I think it's probably going to be, if you had to pin me down without knowing, I would think since that's a 1 and La Familia is a 2, the winner of that one would probably host, because the teams that are coming out of the Louisville region would be Team DRC, Team Fredit, Sideline Cancer, and the Ville, which is the Louisville alumni squad. So that's a good question. We need to answer that, obviously. 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. I wish I had the answer to that one. That's why we have an in-studio producer, Ben Anderson, who will be Googling and searching for that. Hopefully we can get that answer today, if not tomorrow. Also from the text line, and again, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Texter pretty much warning that we should not be overlooking Stony Brook. Texter says, speaking of Stony Brook, Paul, let's please not overlook the Seawolves. Albany gave us fits last season, and we weren't prepared. The last thing we need is to be looking ahead to Virginia Tech and OSU and start 0-3 because we overlooked the Seawolves. It's their Super Bowl. Go Herd. I think every game's their Super Bowl. They're just rebuilding. They want to just win. If Marshall loses to Stony Brook, we got problems. I don't think Marshall's going to actually blow them out the way you think. It's not going to be video game scores here. I think Marshall's just going to run vanilla. Going to run something vanilla, get ready for Virginia Tech. And that's one thing I'm not concerned about, is the fact that Coach Huff, he can game plan for some of these big games. I'll give him credit. He's had a game plan for a few of these, and Marshall's been able to get it done. Will that be the case this upcoming season? I don't know. The coaches don't regard the Herd that highly. If you didn't earlier see the coaches poll, Marshall's picked 5th in the coaches poll. Out of 7 teams in the East, Marshall is picked 5th. And the Thundering Herd only landed 1 player on the preseason teams. And again, it's preseason. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. But Logan Osborne named second team. Last year he was a first teamer. This year he was named second team. So he was also named to the 2024 preseason All Sun Belt first team by Athlon. They thought better of him. And he was a preseason All second teamer by Phil Steele. I wonder how many of these coaches maybe look this stuff up and go, okay, here's what Phil thinks. How many of these coaches, because there's so many new names as well, so I'm sure some of the coaches are like, okay, let me see what Phil says. All right, Osborne, yeah, he's pretty good. We'll give him a vote. And other coaches, I'm sure, will have an idea of, okay, we remember this guy. He was really good against us last year. I mean, each coach has got their own setup. But the Thundering Herd only getting one player in the preseason. So either the league has gotten really good or it's been good and Marshall hasn't caught up yet. Not a lot of regard for the Thundering Herd players in this one. And of course, there's good reason for that. Marshall has not been ultimately successful well enough. Definitely not to the fans' liking, for sure. Marshall has struggled at times. It's been a lot more challenging than maybe some initially thought it would be. Marshall has not pulled away and gotten to the upper echelon. App State, you're going to always consider one of the best. James Madison, they've come in and they've been ultimately successful in their short run. Texas State, Troy, Louisiana, Coastal. I mean, now Georgia Southern eked over Marshall. So really, there's 6 or 7 teams right there that have been pretty consistent. Arkansas State is 4th in the West Division. I don't know how this would look overall because it was East and West order of finish. But the Thundering Herd dropped a little bit. Marshall was a little higher regarded. I think they were 4th last year in the preseason. So now they're 5th. Again, it's by 1 point. I'm not going to split hairs on that one. Old Dominion came in 6th with 32 points, and Georgia State finishes the poll with 19 points and 7th. So the Conference USA teams that came in, Marshall is 5th, Old Dominion 6th in the East, and then Southern Miss is 6th in the West Division. And then James Madison, the other team that came in alongside of the 3 Conference USA teams, James Madison so far has been good as a program, and they're picked 2nd. They did get a couple first-place votes. They got 2. App State's the runaway favorite in the East Division. App State's higher favorite in the East than, say, Texas State was in the West. But a lot of people think Troy might have a shot at it, and Louisiana got 1 first-place vote, believe it or not. I'm a little surprised by that. I don't know if I would have given Louisiana a first-place vote. Troy and Texas State, obviously, there's going to be a little gap there, but it's going to be competitive. With App State, James Madison, I'm not surprised by that. And I didn't think Marshall would sink to 6th or 7th. That's one thing I was pretty certain of. I don't think Marshall is where Old Dominion's at, down in 6th, and Georgia State. And I'm not overlooking any of those teams as well. But here's what it looks like. Marshall, regarded as the 5th best team in the East, and only 1 person named to the preseason team, and that's Logan Osborne. Other than that, where's the Marshall representation in this league? This is what the coaches think. Again, it's preseason. 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Let's get more of your text in when we continue on this edition of The Drive, ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
Guess what, people? Wendy's has new saucy nugs. You heard me. Wendy's nugs now come in 7 saucy flavors. Buffalo, honey barbecue, garlic parm, spicy ghost pepper. You can literally hear your taste buds after every bite. I'm serious. Listen to mine. Okay, that's just me playing with sound effects. For a whole new way to nug, gotta be Wendy's.
Gotta be fresh.
Open till midnight or later.
At participating U.S. Wendy's. Hours may vary by location.
Cold Cats Baseball, your last chances this week, Wednesday through Saturday. Saturday night, we say thanks and farewell with first pitch baseball being skydived into Jack Cook Field from Robert Newland Air Park's West Virginia Skydivers. A post-game party with the band Madhouse during the Orbit's Record Shop post-game concert series presented by the 1861 Public House and Kerber Beer Company. Your chance to say thank you for the team for a great season. Over 20,000 fans have watched great baseball this the season. Dollar Dog Night Wednesday, $2 draft Thursday, skydiving, and a team farewell party Saturday with a team photo.
Let the good times roll. Downtown Huntington's premier weekly music event is back. It's Mount West Ninth Street Live, presented by New Trail, Garage Beer, Big Truck, The Beast, La Marca Prosecco, and Matua Sauvignon Blanc. This Friday, it's Xfinity High-Speed Internet Night with William Matheny and Ginger Wicks. Music starts at 7 on the Marshall OBGYN stage. The Little Caesars Kids Zone is back, and Go-Mart Happy Hour starts at 5. Enjoy food and drinks from the Marshall Hall of Fame Cafe, Sip Downtown Brasserie, and Summit Beer Station. Mark your calendar for Friday, August 2nd, when 9th Street is Dead, featuring John Ingram's Dead Center and the music of the Grateful Dead. The Thundering Herd Rally is Friday, August 16th. 9th Street Live is driven by Yes Chevy, Yes Ford every Friday night through Labor Day. 9th Street in Huntington between 3rd and 4th Avenues. Sponsored by Delta Hotels, Marshall OBGYN, Wendy's, Mountain Mindful, City of Huntington, Marshall University, Impact Media, Xfinity High-Speed Internet, One Way Septic and Rent-A-Can, and Kendrick Communications.
Take a look under your bed. Find stuff under there? What about jobs? No? Now try your basement. There's a pair of overalls that overall you're not so into anymore. A perfectly good laptop that hasn't sat in your lap in months. And even more stuff, but still no jobs? Well, you really have both. See, stuff is defined as household articles considered as a group. Sometimes this stuff is no longer needed. Wait, no longer needed? That can't be right. Because remember those jobs you were looking for? Those are really needed, and they're the stuff inside your stuff. Even inside that winter coat that moved with you to Phoenix. Our job is to unlock those jobs, and it starts when you donate your stuff to your local Goodwill. Here's how we do it. When you donate to Goodwill, we sell your stuff to provide job training for people right here in your community. So just by teaming up with Goodwill, you help create jobs. And isn't that worth parting with the leftover keytar from your 80s cover band? Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs. Find your nearest donation center at goodwill.org. A message from Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Okay, forest animals, today is a new day. Kids are coming to the forest, and it's up to us to make their visit a good one. Sparrow.
Yes?
Have you practiced the most popular bird songs for the year?
Of course.
Catchy. I like it. Okay, River.
Dude.
How's the temperature?
It's a refreshing 52 degrees, man. Perfect for a little riverside shoeless relaxation.
Ah, good. Owl, you here? Course. Who's asking? I am. Look, you know the drill. Sleep during the day, scare the kids at night. Perfect. I love my job. Oak Tree?
Sup?
Still in the same place I left you last year. That's what I like. Consistency.
Well, it's not like I'm going anywhere for the next couple hundred years.
I know. I love it. Turtle.
He's not here yet, man.
He's late every morning. You'd think you would have learned by now to leave the night before our meetings. Okay. Squirrel. Has anybody seen Mr. Squirrel?
The Forest has been preparing just for you. Visit a forest near you today. To learn more about cool things to do in the forest, visit discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
This is The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
Welcome back to our Monday edition. Paul Swann, your host for today's edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Our text line this hour is 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Still trying to figure out where those semis are going to be. Well, actually, we know the semis. It's the quarterfinals we're trying to figure out of the TBT, and everything looks like it's going to be Monday and Tuesday. So I'm just going to presume it's going to be one of the 8. So I would say Heard That would probably be either in the Lexington or Louisville area. I would think that's what the bracket looks like because, again, if you look at the bracket, I think that kind of gives you the hint here because Butler and Pittsburgh makes sense, Houston and Wichita. Then you have Cincinnati and Dayton. So, I would think if you get to the quarterfinal, it's either going to be in Cincinnati or Dayton. If you get to the quarterfinal, either it's going to be in Lexington or Louisville, I would think. So I don't know if the travel is going to be that much of a burden for Marshall fans if they want to go take in Heard That. And again, get an opportunity. Tomorrow night, it's a 9 o'clock game. Heard That and La Familia, the winner. We'll take the winner of the Louisville Regional, and that's still to be determined. So they've got games coming up here in the next few days as well. to kind of pare this down a little bit. It's been fun so far to watch. I mean, the Herd came back, and you really, the way you got to look at this is War Ready only needed 4 more points to shut this game down and complete the game. With the Elam ending, target score was 8. So they needed 4 more points. After they got the initial 4, you're thinking, okay, they got a chance here just to win this thing, and Herd that's going to go home, and it's going to be the upset so far of the tournament because Herd that is a number 1 seed. And then Marshall, Herd that, goes on a 14-0 run. I mean, it didn't look good for him in that final run-up. In the fourth quarter, War Ready outscored them 12-2. And you can't just foul. That's the beauty of this thing, because you can't foul. You can, but you get penalized for it. So, none of that intentional fouling going on here. That was a fun game yesterday. I'm not going to lie to you. Yeah, I did not expect that. And it was definitely a good matchup between both teams. It was back and forth. And that's with Johnny Buckets not having his best game, only 9 points in that game. Of course, Johnny Buckets was out there for a lot of the game. Hopefully we'll see a little bit more of Xavier Munford. We got a lot of J.P. Tokoto. We got a lot of DeAndre Kane. We got a lot of Ja'Cory Williams. And we got a good amount of Tyrus McGee in this game. I thought McGee was good. He had 11 points in the game. Honestly, the only guy who I'm a little disappointed in his performance was Jared West. He was 0 for 3. He's only out there 16 minutes. He did have an assist, and he had a rebound, but 16 minutes, he was 0 for 3. Chris Coakley was 0 of 2 out there. And then, I would like to have seen a little bit more of Ryan Taylor. He was out there, 3 minutes, I think. I mean, your core lineup, when everybody's ready to go, it's Tokoto, Munford, Kane, Williams, Elmore, and then you rotate McGee in there. And then West and Coakley give you a little bit more of a breather here or there. So have you been watching the TBT? Is it just me? Am I the only guy out there watching the TBT? I didn't watch much of the La Familia one. I did want to watch it. I just thought, okay, I can sit here and watch this stuff all day. I can't. Yeah, I know they're trying to run multiple tournament sites at the same time, so TV is going to be here or there on this thing. But we got a national game coming up tomorrow, and that's going to be fun. And if Herd that wins, so we're going to have a lot more to talk about for the rest of the week on that one. So that was fun. It was definitely fun. And, of course, tomorrow is going to be Media Day, East Division, Sun Belt. I'm sure we'll hear something interesting come out of that tomorrow. And the Herd will have one of the last spots of the day, so we'll hear stuff late from the Thundering Herd, and we'll get that to you tomorrow. We'll hear a little bit from what Coach Huff had to say during his media availability tomorrow. That's coming up, and we'll figure this out. What does he think at this point? We'll hear some of the things that the other coaches have to say throughout the week. Marshall picked 5th in the East Division. Does that set well with you as a Herd fan? Is that where Marshall should be? Is Marshall only 5th best in the Sun Belt East Division? I think 4th or 5th is where I was expecting them to be picked. Again, App State's going to be good. James Madison, I think, still going to be good. Coastal Carolina is going to be good. Now, it comes down to, is Marshall better than Georgia Southern? We'll find out early. Old Dominion and Georgia State, I think Marshall's better than those teams. So is Marshall better than those teams? That's going to be the big question. Is 5th fair for this Thundering Herd, or is 5th right where Marshall should be? And just the fact that you have only one player named to any of the preseason All Sun Belt Conference teams, and that's Logan Osborne, a second-teamer. I'll take postseason awards. Preseason's more like a watch list. Hey, here's who we think's going to be good. East Division standings, hey, here's who we think's going to win this thing. All right, that's going to do it for this edition. Thanks for tuning in. I'll be back with you tomorrow here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
retransmitting in glorious FM on 94.1 W227BS Huntington. This is 930 WRVC Huntington, celebrating 100 years of broadcasting.